Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are once again having a look at a Battle Pass vehicle which has just been released, and it's the Centurion Mark II. This is the main prize of Her Majesty's Hussar, and you can find it at level 75. You do have to pay for the Battle Pass in order to get access to it. This is one of those vehicles which I feel like a lot of people would rather have in the tech tree, and I think that's fair. Even though we have a ton of Centurions, it's kind of weird how it goes from the Mark 1 to the Mark 3 now, and then, you know, there's no Mark 2 apart from the Battle Pass one, so yeah, I can understand why people would be annoyed by it. But looking at its stats, and also right now its BR being at 6.3, it's looking pretty good. Like the vehicle compared to the Centurion Mark 1, it's obviously got a different turret, much more similar to the Centurion Mark 3 turret. It has the similar mobility to the Mark 1, apart from this one's slightly heavier, which is a bit of a problem. And it gains something which is incredibly powerful for the BR range, and that is a two-plane stabilizer on the gun. Now, the reason why a bunch of the British vehicles such as the Mark 10, the Centurion Mark 3, the FV4202 I believe it's called, and also the Carnarvon all went up in BR is because they had access to a two-plane stabilizer, and at 6.7 they became very powerful, and then ended up at 7.3, and then you know, even beyond that in some cases. And the Centurion Mark II getting itself a two-plane stabilizer and only going up to 6.3 is kind of a surprise. I would think that this vehicle would have probably gone up to at least 6.7. So it might be quite nice from that point of view. It still does have a few problems though. The engine isn't that powerful, only 566 horsepower. Honest, the transmission doesn't help too much either, but it does have at least a slightly better reverse than a few of the other British vehicles, and the survivability is not entirely great. It does have the 8 pieces of first stage ammo stowage, which is all around the loader, which is fine. The major issue is this here. The vehicle always fills this up if you allow it to, and basically you just have this very big exposed ammo rack on the front, which only has about 100 millimeters of armor in front of it, or 150, which a lot of vehicles are going to be able to punch through. The turret itself is not too bad. It has some holes in it though, so you can basically go through those, and there's other areas where you can just hit the vehicle and just donk on it and take it out. It does have some smoke grenades on it, which is nice. It gets 12 of them, which is quite good. And also, since it's a premium, you do get all of this stuff for free, all the modifications and everything, so you don't have to worry about that. And looking at the rounds it has access to, so you start off, you got the Shot Mark 6, the Mark 4, the Mark 8, and then the SV, and then of course the Smoke Shell. So it has all the standard AP ones, which pen a decent amount, which is good, but it then also has the APDS, which pens a metric amount. The issue with the APDS, with the British in general, is the lack of post-pen damage in it. That's always been a problem with it, but you can always switch to a APC shell or APC-BC shell if you feel like you need a little bit more punch. Won't always work, because sometimes they also have an issue with post-pen damage, but at least it's better than the APDS. There's been so many times where I've used the APDS for the British, and I've penned the turret of a Tiger II, and it's orange the gunner, or, you know, yellowed the commander. And it's just, it's disheartening. And the Centurion Mark II is going to be no different to that. It's going to have the same issues in that way. Other stats, the reload is standard for the 17-pounder. The gun depression is incredibly good. 12 degrees of gun depression is fantastic. Basically means you can angle your tank like this. You can make the hull basically disappear, and overall just have a very powerful hull down situation. The targeting speed could be better, but it's not that bad. The main issue with it, in my opinion, is the vertical speed. You can see here that it is only 2.2 degrees per second, and remember that's a stock. That's a stock thing, but it will not really get too much better. So that's a problem, in my opinion. So that's going to get a lot of people killed, because even though you have the stabilizer, it's going to take you a while for your gun to actually angle onto a target and hit them, which is going to be a problem. Secondary armaments are also not great. You only have a 7.92mm Besa, which is right here. No top-mounted or pintle-mounted gun, so that kind of sucks, which is kind of sad. But overall, it's a pretty standard MBT. Like, there's nothing to really be annoyed at. I just know that this is going to be one of those vehicles that there's going to be people that enjoy it, which is really good. There's going to be people who don't because of the gun and how it functions. And there's going to be people who are just indifferent about it because, you know, it's in the British tech tree. But the British tech tree itself is really good right now. You know, there's a lot of nice BRs. There's a lot of fun to be had in it. And a vehicle like this can definitely help you bolster through that stuff. It's at rank 4. So it can research through the vast majority of the British tech tree, which is really nice. And also at the same time, you have access to some quite fun vehicles at 6.3. You got the Charioteer, which has the 20-pounder on it, so you get a little bit more oomph, but you don't have the stabilizer, and you have a bit more mobility, but you can't go backwards. You've got the FV4005, which is just a massive lob launcher, and you know, it's you just take it out to have a bit of fun with it, and you know, not really do anything else. And then you have the good old Tortoise at 6.7, which we don't talk about because it's horrific. And then you can bring along the Bosvark if you need a bit of AA, the Rattle if you have a Death Wish, and the Black Prince if you don't want to get to battle too quickly. So overall, it's weird because for Britain you have like a few vehicles which are okay around this BR, and then you have nothing, and then you get to like 7.3, and then the vehicles start getting good again, and it's 7.0. So a vehicle like this would have actually fit really well into the tech tree. But the problem is that it isn't in there. It's in a standard Battle Pass box. So if you want a vehicle to help you get through some of the doldrums of the British tech tree, this one is not a bad pick. I think it will work very well in that regard. I think it's one of those which a lot of people will enjoy because the Centurions in War Thunder are fun. Like they're machines which do well at their job. They can always get the first shot off if you line it up correctly because of the stabilizer, and overall you can do good with them. You also have scenarios like that where you don't do anything with them, just to kind of, you know, prove a point with that stuff. And that is the issue with the vehicle right there. You have one shot which annihilates, and then the next shot shatters on a Panzer II of all things. So you just have to kind of roll with the punches with vehicles like this. The mobility might be an issue for some people, but for me it's not a huge one. It's not like there's a metric ton of vehicles with crazy amounts of speed which are running around at 6.3. Like you have a lot of the Italian vehicles and stuff like that, but it's gonna be fine, like moving around with it. And overall, like the platform itself is incredibly stable. It's going to be fun to use, and at the same time, you have something to complement some of the other British vehicles that sit around there, which is very powerful. Like in that regard, I think with Tiger 2s, you're probably going to have to shoot for the standard weak spot, which means good luck doing damage to stuff like gunners and things like that. There you go. But you can still pen stuff, you know, with relative ease, and everything else about it will work well. Like there's nothing that worries me about this vehicle. You know, it's just a pretty bog standard one, and hopefully people enjoy it. And if you haven't given the British tech tree a go already, it's worth it. There's a lot of cool stuff, especially with the addition of the South African things. There's a bunch of really cool vehicles to play now, and it's one of my favorite tech trees, at least in ground. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R, and Lafouche for supporting the channel.